I just spent 3.5 hours getting ready to come here into this space and to be ready to deliver this painting. Hi, and welcome to my multidimensional living room. This is a destination where you land so that we can co-create this painting together. And we talk about art and life in multidimensional terms. I'm going to be painting energies, and if something speaks to you, if it finds you in the right place at the right time, then that's great. If something doesn't resonate with you, please consider that you may not be the only person in the room. Even though it looks like there's only very few of us now, and in the time when I'm filming this, I create every single video with intention that it captures the energy of anybody who might come into this space, not just in the first 48 hours from posting the video, but over what my human self would lower down into next 100 years from posting this. So even though there's only very few of us here, and I appreciate you being here, there are very many energies in here, and spirits of people that are yet to be here, and spirits of people that have been here before. There are spirits that entered this space before I physically entered this space. So, if there is something that doesn't resonate with you, consider that it might resonate with somebody else in exactly that way that it is being delivered, and not any other way that lives in the potential. If there is something that you recognize that is being undelivered, please feel free to express yourself in the comment section. Please use your intuition and use your discernment. How's my hair? Okay. Yeah. I took enormously long time to come here. If in the last painting I had too much coffee, in this one I didn't have coffee. And the consequences of having too much coffee and having not enough coffee are kind of the same. Yeah. I don't know which one is worse. So I think I just completely need to cut off coffee from my experience. But there is something so beautiful in leaving the house and finding a really pretty spot in the city and go there at a time when there is a sun shining on that spot and having a cup of coffee there. And having that cup of coffee that is not too hot, because when I make coffee it's too hot and I have to wait until it becomes the perfect temperature. But there you got it perfectly creamy and perfectly temperatured for pleasure. That just leaves an impact on you where you need to do that in between sentences. Yeah. Let's start painting. Shall we? I've been visited by 10 years younger version of me, which is somebody who has been in this space before I was. That's why I'm saying this is a destination where you land, because that's what she told me that she needs out of this space. A 10-year younger version of me is a party person with an endless capacity to party. And when she would come home on Monday morning, exhausted from dancing the entire weekend, or perhaps even the entire week, exhausted but still unable to fall asleep, she would need a space like this. A space where she can safely land to relax and to rest, but to also be at the same time mentally, emotionally, and multidimensionally engaged and challenged while she's resting. She needed her multidimensionality and her colorful mind to be acknowledged and validated and safe to be expressed in whatever ways it comes out. She needed that because at a time she lived in time and space where, first and foremost, she operated from the premise that if she sees colors and shapes and melodies in her head, and that's the language that she's thinking in, then that's how everybody else's mind is functioning as well, and that couldn't be further from the truth. And she had to repeatedly come to the point of realizing that not everybody thinks the way she thinks, and that has been quite an isolating experience, especially in the after hours on Monday morning or Monday afternoon or Tuesday afternoon, whenever that would happen, whenever the end of a party would happen, even if it would be on Thursday afternoon. Sooner or later she would just come to this space where she needs to rest, but she also needs to keep this colorful part of herself alive. And sometimes she would find that in books, and sometimes Penn and Teller would do the thing with their magic, but what she actually needed and why she actually came back here to visit me in this space is she needed a living room like this. She needed exactly what I'm doing right now. So she came to deliver it. To deliver her expectation, I mean. And because she did that, I devote this channel to everybody who needs the same thing. Across time and space. Maybe you needed it 10 years ago, just like I did. But maybe you find this channel 50 years from now. Sorry, I have to check my hair over there sometimes because I don't trust my hair. Yeah. And while I was getting ready for this painting, I've seen a loop, clear as day. Every aspect of the loop, that's what I'm going to be painting, the loop. But as if that wasn't enough, I went to meditate and I asked for the meditation the question, what is something that I really need to paint today? Is there something specific, something important, something that resonates with people, something that I really need to create? And I had an experience that I'm probably going to talk about it a little bit later, but it was relating to the loop. It was basically the loop but in another scenario. And then, as if that wasn't enough in and of itself, like while I was drinking tea with myself, I opened tarot cards. And what I've seen in the cards was basically the card representation of the same principle. It was just yet another version of what the loop is going to be about. And all these things were about self-realization and multiple ways of how it can happen from inside from outside, sooner or later, in one way or another way. Tarot cards basically showed me that I'm talking to somebody. You are the whole world. There is a whole world inside of you. You are everything. But if I would come to you and be like, hey, who are you? Your answer would be fairly modest. and you would be like, I'm this and that. But inside of you, there is a history of things that you went through to become an empress, to become somebody who is responsible and accountable for your own life. You create your life. You know what to do. You have enthusiasm, you have a spark, you have an inspiration, you got something that moves you forward. You have ways to organize yourself, you have ways to understand yourself, you have ways to express yourself, you have ways to make things happen for yourself and for those around you. You have ways of organizing and expressing yourself. You have ways of regulating yourself and your emotions. You kind of have a thing for where to put each of yourself. Like you have a space to put everything in place. And that kind of gives you a huge power. It gives you something to work with. It's like you have yourself as something to work with. And you can do that with your will. You can always organize yourself however you need in order to achieve your results. And all these tools and all these aspects of yourself that serve as tools are always at your disposal. And they are all discovered within you. But your general energy, or like how this is all packed in together, is, I'm not so sure about that. It's like you would not fully present yourself as somebody who has it all together and as somebody who knows what he's doing and knows what you're about. It's like, yeah, deep down you operate in those waters, but it's not fully claimed on the surface yet. Yeah, that's what the cards showed me. Now I'm gonna paint a loop. As soon as I find black color. Should I do it neon? No, black. The loop has seemingly the beginning and the end, but only seemingly. You know those toys, plastic toys that are spiraling, and usually they come in rainbow colors, and then you can play with them like this, or you can put them on a staircase and then just move them, and then they just kind of do this all over the staircase. And you can put them around your hand, around your arm, and then it kind of serves like a bracelet. And if you cut one circle of it, it can play pretend to be a bracelet, but it has the beginning and the end. And that beginning and the end doesn't really come perfectly like this, it comes like this, like one above the other. So this is how this loop is structured. It has a beginning, and it goes in a circle, and it seemingly comes to an end, and it creates an image of closed circle, but it's not. It actually keeps going like this. And then another circle. And then another one. And another one. And another one. And so it goes until the end of time. And the beginning of this loop is a conversation of some sort, where somebody reveals an aspect of you to yourself, and you don't agree with it from the start. So you're like, no, that's not true. Somebody says something about you that you just can't agree with, and you're like, no, that's not who I am. I can't accept that. Or you might be saying, I know who I am, but that's not who I am. Because it makes you uncomfortable. It's not a type of an accusation or revelation that you would brush off and be like, yeah, whatever, and just keep going with your day. It's something that sticks with you, and you find yourself being up in your head. Why did they say something like this? That makes me so uncomfortable. It's so embarrassing. How could they say it? How could they say that? How could they say it in that particular way? How could they say it there in front of everybody? How could they? And then you start processing it in your head and thinking about it, even obsessively, and defending yourself, and can't believing that somebody could have balls to do something like this to you. How dare do they do that? And you might start obsessing about it. You might want to go to Reddit and anonymously be like, oh my god, can you believe that what just happened to me? You might want to call all your friends and make a story about what an awful person they are to say exactly what they said to you. You might also be aware if you want to do that, but stop yourself, because you also realize that your discomfort is in your head, it's inside of you, unless you externalize it. Because as soon as you call your friends and make a story about it, you make it even more real. So you might just notice your desire to externalize it and to make a real deal about it, but you're like, okay, maybe I don't need to do that, maybe it will pass. You acknowledge that it makes you feel uncomfortable, but then you just keep thinking about it. And you just keep thinking about it. And you might be thinking about it and be up in your head about it for hours or days or months or even years. Even years, yeah. And then you're up in your head about it. But I'm gonna keep it simple, and let's say you spend only 4 hours thinking about it. And after 4 hours of obsessively thinking about it and realizing, okay, well, I just spent 4 hours thinking about this, so maybe I could stop thinking about it now, because I don't think it deserves my attention anymore. But then you can't stop thinking about it. It's just like you're having such a powerful charged momentum of thinking about it, and you can't, nothing else, your mind just doesn't stick to anything else, because you're so invested in this, you're obsessed. But then after you realize how much you're obsessed, there's a tiny little voice that comes from somewhere, but you like it that way, don't you? And you're like, no, I don't like it. I really do want to stop thinking about it, and I do want to stop obsessing about it. I really do wanna. But why don't you then? Because you like it. A part of you knows that you like being obsessed about it, and you might claim to yourself, no, that's not true. I hate it. I really want to stop. Well, then you love hating it, don't you? There's something about it why you keep being there. There is some benefit that you're reaping off of thinking obsessively about something. Maybe you like the intensity. Maybe you like hating. And maybe that's what it is. You admit to yourself, yeah, I hate the situation and I love hating it, because I just can't love accepting that whatever they said, that they might be right. I just can't accept that. I hate accepting that. And I love hating it. Because I just can't accept it. And then you're like, okay, well, now the load kind of eases itself a little bit. And you ask yourself, okay, well, can you name that one thing, that one single thing that you can't accept? What is it? What is it that you can't accept? Can you just name it so that you can clearly see it? And you might finally verbalize it and say that thing that they said to you in exactly that way, and what that reveals about you, and try to see that as the truth that is so unbearable to accept. As something that you can't agree with this. It's there, it's on the table, it's unpacked, you just don't want to agree with this. And then you unpack it and you put it on the table and you're like, yeah, okay, that's it. And you ask yourself, what would be the worst thing if that would actually be the truth? Like, what if that's the truth? What if that's actually true? And then you come face to face with acceptance, and then you're like, okay, well, okay, yeah, it is the truth. Like, whatever it is that triggers me so much and that I find so unacceptable is actually true, yeah. And then you might also quickly jump on it, and so what? Yeah, that's true, and so what? And there it goes. It stops. Like, this whole charge of overthinking and being obsessed and being up in your head about something simply stops and leaves you there. And opens up a whole new room of your mind where you can think whatever else do you want to think. Yeah. And then you spend 5 minutes thinking about something else. And then after 5 minutes you realize, oh, it's been 5 minutes since I thought about that thing. And then you can keep noticing how much time went since you've been thinking about that. Yeah. And then you start noticing how much time passed from the last time you thought about it. And then perhaps you change the room completely. And then you notice that, okay, now you can think about something else. But now you feel so tense, like your muscles are hurting. Maybe you have a headache, maybe your neck hurts. Maybe you just feel off, you feel like you need to stretch. Maybe you feel like you need a massage, maybe you feel like you need to exercise, maybe you feel like you need something. I'll be cutting out every time when I cough. And then you get a massage or something. You go exercising. You go to gym and you spend 2.5 hours on whatever you do over there. And then you get mad again because you realize, like, you needed something external. You needed a massage. You needed to go to the gym, you needed to go running, you needed to externalize that energy outside of your body, you needed to stretch, you needed to do something to get this energy out of you because you can feel it in your muscles, you can feel how it is stored in your body. And now here comes the part where you get mad again and you be like, I can't believe I just spent like 4 hours obsessing about something. And now I also need to go to the spa in order to relieve myself from all of that. And now this is the fertile ground where you can create all kind of stories of, this is toxic, that person is toxic, they probably wanted me to spend the entire day thinking about them and trying to externalize that energy and clear the energy and do the energy work now after them because they're so toxic, they're leeching energy off of me, I need to protect myself more, or I need to cut this person out of my life, or I need to put boundaries or something. And you might fall into that space that is basically that is basically polarizing you versus them. So you're the good person and they're the bad person, and now you're at loss and they're winning because they're against you and you're the good one. And it's just like, you might find yourself in this area here where the relief might come from, yeah, cut them off. Just, block them, cut contact, never see them again, never let them into your reality again, never let them say something to you that would put you in 6 hours of distress and 4 hours of distress and 2 hours of enjoying yourself. Never do that again. And you may land there, and you may actually find a relief over there and be like, yeah, that's it. They are toxic, and I need to cut them out. Yeah. But then you temporarily forget that actually that thing that they told you is actually true to at least one part of you. Not to all of you, obviously, because most of you would not agree with this thing, and it would spend 4 hours wrestling the thought before accepting it. But then there is that one part of you that would say, yeah, that thing that they said is actually true. Yeah. Even if this part comes online only for a very brief few seconds before it says, so what? To protect itself. That part is still there and still agreeing. Not that it's agreeing, but it holds that thing that they told to you as truth. And because it assumes that that's truth, it operates under the premise that that thing is true. And it organizes its own behavior around the fact that that's true. And then it's the behavior that is telling that in your field, in your aura, to whoever said anything to you, they can read it out of your behavior. They can call themselves psychic or not. Irrelevant. But they can read it. And they can let you know something about you, which you thought that nobody else will see it because you don't see it. And you forget for a moment that that part of you and that truth and that thing, that whatever they said, exists within you. In other words, you still refuse to see it if you organize your world around the fact that they did what they did, that they said what they said, and how do they dare? How do you actually say that? How dare do they? How do they dare? Yeah. But you see, the fact that they did dare to say what they did dare to say actually revealed the crack inside of your foundation. They wouldn't say that if there wouldn't be an opportunity for that to be said. In other words, they could say, everybody can say anything at any given moment in time, but if you wouldn't believe that yourself, it wouldn't land anywhere. Or if you would believe that yourself, but you would be accepting of it, there would be no place where it could hook you in. There would be no crack in your foundation, in your structure of self, where this could enter and grab you and keep your attention there for 4 hours in your mind, and then additional hours trying to release that energy from your body. So basically they did you a favor. Like I mentioned in the last video. Like, even if somebody comes as an enemy into your field and tries to poke you, if you know how to read it, then you can always win from that situation. You can always have a win-win situation if you know how to read it. And that brings you the realization that they basically just revealed the crack inside of yourself so that you can find a more contemporary way of organizing yourself and update that little part of you that still believed that thing that they extracted outside of you and showed it to you and you didn't like it. Now you can choose to organize that little part of you who was not on board with the rest of you. You can organize it differently. You can update it. You can realize that that premise under which it operated came from somewhere else, from outdated times, from other countries where you don't live anymore, and you can update it. Yeah. And strengthen it and put it back. Camera stopped recording, but I think I stopped at a point where I said that you can, that little part which has not been on board with the rest of you, you can update it and put it in alignment with everybody else, so that when all of you goes in one direction, that one little part doesn't keep pulling you backwards through other people. So basically, whoever said anything to you that stopped you in your tracks and took hours of your life, hopefully hours, because sometimes people spend years in loops like this, they did you a favor. They really just did you a favor. They were just like, hey, you can update yourself here. And then you update yourself. And then you have multiple languages to speak here now. Increase your frequency, or you level up, or you update your beliefs, or you just strengthen yourself, or name it as you want. But you end up being in this space of gratitude for that experience. And from perhaps hating that person and wanting to cut them out and wanting to, I don't know, prosecute them publicly, I don't know what you want to do with them, you go into the space of gratitude that they are in your life in exactly that way and not any other way. Maybe plus the any other way. But that they have audacity and ability to mirror you perfectly, that goes in the bank account of your future growth. It's a privilege. You see it as a gift. You don't hate it anymore. Maybe you do a little bit. It's kind of like, I hate it, but I love you, kind of a thing. And it's a good place to end. And here you can add a little bit of that, you know, we're all drops in the ocean from, no, we're all just drops from one big ocean. And so it's basically you doing it to yourself. This other person, whoever they are, saying whatever they said to you, is basically you speaking back to yourself. It's your spirit organizing them to talk to you through this space-time reality so that you can grow into that higher version of yourself. Everybody is you pushed out kind of a thing. That brings you back into the unity consciousness, where you see how the problem that you have is leading into the solution of who you are, or the solution that you are. And that's seemingly the end point. But it's not the end, because as you figure this one out, there's another one, and another one, and another one, and another one. I could do like the entire series of exactly this painting in all possible rainbow colors, or at least red, blue, black and white version of rainbow colors. Yeah. This is how you realize yourself. And it's not to blame you in any point of this loop. It's not to blame you. It's not that it's your fault. You know, some people like to come here and be like, you did it to yourself. Which, you know, if you don't really know how to move through this loop from the beginning till the end, it feels like it's your fault. It feels like you gotta be blaming yourself. It feels like you should have done it better. It seems like you should have been perfect in the first place. It feels like you were supposed to have it all together. It feels like you should have known better. It feels like, oh, it's hard. But it's not that you're supposed to have it all figured out from the get-go. It's that you need to learn how to go through that process by going through this process in exactly that way. And not get stuck here in polarity of you versus them versus you. But move through that back into you. It's always about you. It starts and it ends with you. And it's about learning how to move through that loop, full circle, without getting stuck. And I think this is where most of the people are stuck. And this part of the loop is kind of like, it's super well known and basic and simple to some people, but it's a complete rocket science to most of the other people. I hope that makes sense. How's my hair doing? Okay. Another vision that I had regarding this loop was, so I basically asked what would be important to bring into this painting and what do I need to paint here. And then I went meditating, and I ended up having an experience within a meditation. It was kind of like a real experience, I'm not joking. I was experiencing myself as a man. So I was a man, and I didn't wake up, I just suddenly was in another reality where I didn't recognize anybody. There were a bunch of people around me, could have been my family, I don't know. I really don't know who these people were, and so I was asking people, who are they? And they couldn't really comprehend my lostness in this moment. You know this film, I don't know the film name, but basically Nicolas Cage is waking up in another reality. So he is normally like a super successful financial businessman living in a super fancy rich apartment in New York and having a lot of girlfriends. And then one day he wakes up living in a village with a wife and children screaming in the morning. That's literally the feeling that I had in the meditation today. I was a man that suddenly was surrounded with a bunch of people, and I didn't know who these people are. So I asked them, and they were confused with me asking them. There was a bunch of young girls dressed as ballerinas preparing to leave the room and going through the door, and I was like, excuse me, who are you? And they laughed. They found it funny that I asked them, who are they? And it was a very agonizing experience for me because I couldn't connect with anybody. They all just expected me to just keep going because there were things to do. And I really couldn't relate to anybody. I just really felt very dislocated. I felt like I wasn't sure, did I just switch realities? Did I quantum jump somewhere that where I'm not sure who is this? Did I have dementia? Did I just forget everything? I really wasn't sure what's going on, and it was a very unpleasant experience that left me crying. And I was very sad and disappointed by living life where I don't feel like I belong in here. And I cried for real. So that's what got me out of the trance, was that I actually started crying for real. And to get out of the trance felt like a relief, and to realize that that just happened inside of my head and not like a real living experience. And when I was thinking about it later on, oh, by the way, there was also something else after that. I got out of the trance and then I got back into it to continue the experience. And the experience went quite on and on, but there was another thing that is related to this loop. And this other thing was that I also sat in a car with somebody, and somebody assumed that I can drive. It was a woman, I was still a man. And I was still confused, not knowing, like, where am I and who are these people and who is this woman in my car and is this even my car? I knew nothing. The car was already running and I needed to drive. And I didn't know how to drive. And I decided I'm just gonna figure it out. So I entered the car and I looked underneath and I was looking where are the pedals, because I didn't intuitively know where are they. And I tried to step on some of them that would move the car forward, and I did. And as I drive, like, the driving was quite mad, and I scratched another car that was passing by, and I was trying to find a balance on the road somehow, and I was very nervous because I didn't want to admit that I don't know how to drive a car, so I just looked at this woman next to me and I asked her, "Did you just felt what happened?" And she said, "Yeah, that was sexy." I was confused because I realized, like, well, if she liked that I just almost crushed another car, then I might as well pull it off. So I said, you know what, fake it till you make it, and I decided I'm just gonna drive it. It will be a bit rough, and I don't know how to stop and how to park the car, but I'll figure it out. And when I was contemplating about what does it actually mean, it led me back into self-realization and how sometimes, like, it's really hard to live. It's really, how do I put you? It is really hard to live when you're living from outside in, when you're asking people on the outside about who they are and expect to get a clue from them about who you are. And when you actually even do let them define you, you end up being in places where you're not really the happiest. And maybe happiness is not even part of the equation in the first place. But then also sometimes you find yourself living in a way that other people recognize your potential and who you are before you recognize it within yourself. Or even if you don't fully recognize it yourself, you know, like, I assume men could relate to that. Out of my glimpse into a male experience of how is it to be a man, like, if a woman sees something in you, you know, it can go either way. Like, you can even get frightened by the potential that you figure out that you're not willing or able to live up to what she sees in you. Or if she sees you as, wow, you're driving so fast, that's so cool, you'll be like, yeah, I don't even know how to drive, but you know what, like, I'm gonna pull it off. Sometimes it happens this way, that, you know, somebody puts you in a spot and sees you as skillful, as masterful, as you know what you're doing, you know what you're talking about, and you feel like an imposter inside. And vice versa, it can also happen that you know what you're talking about, and you know how to do it, and you know what you're doing, but on the outside people are like, there's something off about you. Yeah. All of it is an experience that happens through being a human. Yeah, I kind of like it like this. But I guess for the sake of the loop, I have to connect it. Yeah. Maybe this is a wheel of fortune. Because self-recognition does play into the wheel of fortune. It's either the wheel is turning how the fate decides, or how you decide. There's something else that was coming through that I feel like I want to leave it for the next video and for the next painting. because this one might be a little bit too long if I continue with this. It looks like a star again. I'm gonna link the other video, Becoming a Star. It might be relevant. How's my hair? Good. Okay. Thank you for being here. Thank you for co-creating this painting with me. This painting is going to be available in the link in the pinned comments, and the password to view it and to acquire it is... Okay. Once again, thank you for being here, and thank you for supporting the channel in whatever way that actually suits you at this moment in time. And if you want your own personal painting, the link is also going to be down below in the description box. Ciao.